Hello everybody. In today's lecture, we'll be talking about containment levels. What exactly are containment levels in the first place? A containment or a biosafety level, which is commonly known as BSL, or which could also be called the pathogen or protection level, is a set of biocontainment precautions that are required to isolate the dangerous biological agents. When you are exploring them or conducting experiments on them within a laboratory facility which is generally enclosed. So, these levels of containments can be of four types. They are commonly called as the biosafety level 1 or the BSL 1, the biosafety level 2 or the BSL 2, the biosafety level 3 or the BSL 3, and biosafety level 4 or the BSL 4. Similarly, if you are carrying out such experiments which are requiring the use of dangerous biological agents on animals, you will have animal biosafety level 1 or the ABSL 1, the animal biosafety level 2 or the ABSL 2, animal biosafety level 3 or the ABSL 3, and animal biosafety level 4 or ABSL 4. So when we talk about biosafety levels, what we should know is that the infectious risk of the microbes or the pathogenicity of the microbes will increase with an increase in the biosafety level. So beginning with BSL 1, BSL 1 is used for microbes that are not known to cause any disease in healthy hosts. Thereby they pose a minimal risk to the researchers who are working on it or even to the environment. A classic example for such microbes are the non-pathogenic strains of E. coli or the Escherichia coli. Moving up the ladder, we have the biosafety level 2, where the microbes that require this biosafety level are typically indigenous and are associated with diseases of varying severity, where these microbes may cause a disease which is really severe, or they may not cause a disease at all. So there is a range of severity caused by such microbes, and these microbes, they pose a moderate risk to the workers and environment. The classic example for this would be Staphylococcus aureus, which is commonly found across the human skin. But the pathogenicity of Staphylococcus aureus varies independently. Nextly, we have the BSL 3, where it is used for those microbes that are indigenous or exotic. Where exotic here means that they are something new, something unusual. Like for example, you have the various viruses that are coming up today, like the coronavirus, the Ebola virus, etc. All of them are considered exotic because they are relatively new. Whereas the indigenous ones are those microbes which have been known to the mankind. And in the case of BSL 3, these microbes may be indigenous or exotic, and they could cause diseases of a serious grade, which can eventually kill an organism as well. And in most of the cases, the transmission is through air or the respiratory transmission. Example here would be Mycobacterium tuberculosis, which is a pathogen that causes tuberculosis disease. And lastly, at the top of this pyramid, we have microbes that are dangerous and exotic. So these are the microbes we do not know anything about, but they have a high risk of aerosol transmitted infections, where an infected person can actually die. We have been coming across variety of viruses like the Ebola, the Marburg virus, or even the coronavirus in today's condition, which have these characters, and they all require BSL-4 to be used for experimentations. Another interesting feature of these microbes is that they are not available with treatment or vaccines also, and which is also one of the reasons why they end up being fatal. And interestingly, not every laboratory will have a BSL-4 facility, which is exactly why in today's condition of the COVID-19 pandemic, not everybody is allowed to do a COVID-19 research, because they would not have the necessary BSL-4 facilities. So only a few labs are at the BSL-4 level within India and also across the world. Talking more in detail about the biosafety levels, as I told you, the BSL-1 would involve that organism which is kind of harmless. So there won't be any need for containment, as the organisms are defined and unlikely to cause a disease. Furthermore, when we talk about the requirement of autoclaving, there is no need to do any autoclaving when you are using a BSL-1 facility. Next, the BSL-2 will require a moderate containment due to the risk associated with the pathogens being used here. Apart from the Staphylococcus aureus, you could also be working on the influenza, HIV, Lyme disease with the use of BSL-2 facility. And these agents are generally associated with human disease, and they pose a moderate hazard to both the personal and the environment. Despite all this, there is no need for any autoclave under BSL-2. Now, in the case of BSL-3, there is a requirement of high containment due to the risk of aerosol transmission and the serious or potentially lethal disease that can be caused by the microorganisms involved. So, for these indigenous or exotic agents to be maintained under BSL-3, there is a need of autoclave to be done, where a pass-through autoclave with BioSeal may be required within the laboratory room. Finally, the BSL-4 is the most well-equipped or well-regulated safety level here, which requires the maximum containment due to the use of exotic or high-risk agents which could cause life-threatening diseases. Here again, there is a need for autoclaving with the use of pass-through autoclave with BioSeal that is required in the laboratory room. Now, moving on further to the practices that are associated with biosafety levels. In the BSL-1, The general practices include standard microbiological practices, and the biosafety manual is needed where it defines the waste decontamination or the medical waste management along with the surveillance policies, meaning that there should be supervision that is definitely needed, but it is not as strict as the higher biosafety levels. And the personnel who are working in such laboratories will not need any primary barrier or safety equipment to wear. So whenever we talk about a primary barrier or safety equipment, it refers to those facilities or those items which are to be worn by the personnel or which are to be provided in the laboratory to avoid the researchers from getting infected. So here in the case of BSL-1, there is none of them required. And moving to the secondary barriers or the facilities that are provided within the laboratory, in the case of BSL-1, there should be a laboratory bench and a sink to wash hands and to perform the experiment. So this is the most basic facility that is to be provided. In the case of BSL-2, it will need all that is provided by in the BSL-1 practice, along with limited access to people. So not everybody can enter the lab and leave it or exit. Also, there should be clear communication to the people with the help of biohazard warning signs, and if there are any sharp objects used like that of needles or syringes or blades, they should be labeled with precautions. Also, under the primary barriers, we see the use of the biosafety cabinets that begin here. So generally a class 1 or class 2 biosafety cabinet or BSC is used in a BSL-2 facility. So as we all know, biosafety cabinet can also be called the laminar airflow cabinet. And apart from this, the other devices that help in physical containment can be used for manipulation of the agents which cause splashes or aerosol of infectious materials. So if we are using or if you are cultivating these microbes in a liquid medium, care must be taken to carry out such experiments in a biosafety cabinet. Also, the researcher who is performing the experiment or the personnel of the laboratory are advised to wear lab coats, gloves and face mask for protection whenever needed. It is always ideal if for the secondary barrier a BSL-2 facility will contain what is provided under a BSL facility, and also autoclave and emergency eye wash facilities. Now moving on to the biosafety level 3. The biosafety level 3 will have controlled access to its personnel, a clear measure to decontaminate all the waste, and laboratory clothing, apart from a baseline serum to conduct the experiments. All of these practices that are followed in a BSL-3 will generally also include the BSL-2 practices, and the primary barriers used in BSL-3 will again be the use of class 1 or class 2 biosafety cabinets and other physical containment devices, while carrying out open manipulation of the agents. Additionally, personal protective equipment is essential here. where wearing of suitable laboratory clothing like that of aprons, gloves and face protection masks can be essential. Also, in the case of secondary barriers that are supposed to be provided with the BSL 3, is a physical separation of the facility from access corridors. So this facility is generally isolated, although in the same building, and it will also contain self-closing double door access, and care is taken not to recirculate the air with the provision of suitable exhausts. Furthermore, there must be a negative airflow that is maintained within the cabinet, along with the provision of autoclave and emergency eye wash facilities. Talking about the animal biosafety laboratories or the animal biosafety levels, here again, in the case of ABSL 1, the practices include standard animal care and management with appropriate medical surveillance programs, along with the use of a biosafety manual or establishment of a standard operating procedure on how to handle the animals. In terms of the primary barriers or safety equipment, they vary depending on the species of the animal being used. So you can use mice, you can use rats, you can use guinea pigs, you can use primates. All of them have varying requirements in terms of primary barriers on how the personnel should be protected from the animal assault. In terms of the secondary barriers, a standard animal facility is needed which will have no recirculation of the exhaust air, and with the recommended directional airflow, a hand washing facility, and emergency shower and eye wash facility. Now moving up to the ABSL 2, all the practices that are followed in the ABSL 1 are essentially followed, along with limited access, warning signs for biohazards and sharps, and decontamination of all infectious waste and animal cages prior to washing. Here again, in the case of primary barriers, the containment equipment which are appropriate to the animal species is needed, alongside the ABSL 1 equipment. Also, the personnel will have to wear lab coats, gloves, and face and respiratory protection during the performance of experiments in such facilities. Also, the secondary barriers required are the ABSL 1 plus an autoclave and a mechanical cage washer. In ABSL 3, all the ABSL 2 practices, along with controlled access, decontamination of clothing before laundering, decontamination of the cages before the bedding is removed, and use of disinfectant foot bath may be needed, or in a few facilities, removal of the footwear to enter the animal house may be essential. In cases where the animals are exposed to exotic agents, a shower out facility may also be required. Meanwhile, for the safety equipments or primary barriers in ABSL 3, all the facilities or barriers provided in the ABSL 2 will be essential, along with containment equipment for the housing animals and cages to be dumped after the activities. A use of biosafety cabinets, which could be of class 1, class 2 or class 3 depending on the manipulative procedures, which will include inoculation or necropsy, and the use of PPE or the personal protection equipment, which will have a full protective clothing like that of the scrub suits, coveralls or uniforms, and appropriate respiratory protection, where the personnel are advised to wear the mask. And lastly, talking about the secondary barriers that are required in a ABSL 3 facility, it will have all the secondary barriers that are provided with the ABSL 2, along with physical separation of the facility from the corridors. So there is the need of double door access, and the doors are generally self-closing. Also, the penetrations are sealed along with the windows that are sealed, so there is a proper maintenance of airflow and autoclave wherever necessary. Now moving on to the biosafety level 4, which is required for work with dangerous and exotic agents, because they have an individual high risk of aerosol transmitted laboratory infections and the occurrence of life-threatening diseases due to such infections. Also, these exotic agents are dangerous because there are no vaccines or treatments available for the infections that are caused by them, or they are related to an agent with unknown risk of transmission. So in any such case, laboratory staff must be competent in handling extremely hazardous infectious agents. They should understand the primary and secondary containment functions, which are of standard and special practices. There should be adequate containment equipment provided alongside the laboratory design characteristics. There are generally two models for biosafety level 4 laboratories, where the first model is known as a cabinet laboratory, where it will contain all the BSL 3 practices which are essentially carried out in a class 3 biosafety cabinet. And nextly we have the suit laboratory, where the personnel must wear a positive pressure supplied air protective suit while carrying out experiments either in a BSL 3 facility or a cabinet laboratory of a BSL 4 facility. Furthermore, the biosafety level 4 cabinet and suit laboratories will have special engineering and design features that will help in the prevention of microorganisms from being disseminated into the environment. And lastly, the animal biosafety level 4, when being used, will involve the animal biosafety level 3 practices that are carried out in a class 3 biosafety cabinet, or in suit laboratories with special engineering and design features to prevent the microorganisms from being disseminated into the environment and person. So with this I would like to conclude today's lecture. Thank you all.